Hey y'all, Myria Com here again. They, them, theirs. Thanks for being here to listen to me ramble about stuff. I don't have a lot to say today. I was going to go for an after work walk and try and get some inspiration during my walk, but it started raining just as I was about to leave my house, so that isn't gonna happen right now. Hopefully. I mean, we need the rain, so that's good, but hopefully it calms down a little bit so I can go for a walk still. During a little bit of downtime today at work, I was like, you know what? I wonder if there is any data about, uh, like population data about the queer community here where I live. And there is not. Uh, I did a little bit of research, not a lot. I could do some more in-depth research probably, but I was able to find like population data for queer folks in like bigger metro areas across the United States, but nothing for my area, unfortunately. I'm not that surprised by that, especially in the world we currently live in, but I am disappointed, is the word I'm going to use. Uh, I was able to find some like demographic information that purports to be nationwide, but again, in the world that we currently live in, where there's a lot of, hey, supposedly according to some stupid executive order, there are only two genders and all this stupid shit. That isn't real. You can't dictate that by executive order, sorry to say, but whatever. Anyway, in the world we currently live in, I'm not that surprised by it. I sort of remember feeling like we were moving towards being able to get that demographic data a little bit better in the previous administration. I think we've moved backwards quite a bit on a lot of stuff in this current administration, so who knows if that'll ever happen in my lifetime now, but I think that's important information to be gathering, but whatever. It just kind of made me think of the fact that I couldn't really find good information on this anywhere. Just kind of made me think of during Nazi Germany, one of the biggest, losses of information, because if you're unaware, during the Nazi regime in World War II Germany, a lot of book burnings happened. There were a lot of book burnings, a lot of, destruction of research and things like that, and some of the biggest swaths of information that was lost was research and information, studies, etc., on queer populations. That was a big part of what was lost during the Nazi regime. And I just kind of feel like that's kind of where we're at right now. There's quite a bit of pushback. There's quite a bit of communities that are fighting against that. Individual people that are fighting against that. Universities that are fighting against that. Organizations that are fighting against that, etc. In America right now. But it definitely does feel like that's where we're at. It feels like we are, going through this whole. And it's not just happening with queer folks either, it's happening with everything. This administration and their supporters are fighting against critical race theory without actually understanding what it is or what it really means. They see you're making white people look bad. Oh my god. And that's not what critical race theory is. If you're interested in learning more about critical race theory, there are definitely people way more with way more expertise out there than I have, but I have done some research in critical race theory. I've done some research into feminism and gender studies. I've done some research into a lot of different areas of social what's the word? Like sociology related stuff, mostly in relation to pop culture, but other stuff as well. And like I could talk more about critical race theory at some point if y'all would be interested in that. But anyway, that is something that they are fighting against, trying to get rid of. Like the current administration was literally trying to still is in the process of literally trying to erase pretty much anyone of color who has done anything important in our history, trying to erase all of that. They're trying to whitewash slavery. They're trying to, do a bunch of that bad shit that we don't want them to do, because if you ignore the past, you're doomed to repeat it. I'm not just saying that because I minored in history in college. That's just how it works. If you just ignore what actually happened, it's gonna happen again because no one knows it happened before. And that's what they want. They want to be able to keep being racist. They want to be able to keep being homophobic and transphobic and just terrible in general. And that's just what's going to keep happening as long as we let them do it. So we need to keep fighting back. We need to keep fighting against all of this. We need to, in our own organizations, like if you're part of a queer group of some kind in your own town or your own city, you need to try and gather that demographic information, that population information as an organization. And I know I'm being I'm dictating a lot right now and I'm saying this is what we need to do, but I mean it's realistic. If we can't count on the government to keep that information somewhere, they're erasing a lot of it from the government website, the federal government websites as well. They're whitewashing and straightwashing and everything on the federal government websites. They're just doing all kinds of insane shit right now. But we in our own groups need to start collecting that information and keeping track of that information. We can't trust anyone else to do it, unfortunately, at this point. Not that we ever really should have trusted anyone else to do it either, but we just really can't anymore. We don't want the same kind of loss of swaths of important information that happened during Nazi Germany. We don't want that kind of stuff. We need to be able to keep that information. And granted, with the internet, it's all still out there somewhere. Theoretically, hopefully. Can you use the archive.org and things like that to get information? But it's just kind of a bummer to have something to live in 2026 and try and look up information about hey, about how many queer people are in the city I live in, and not be able to find any information on that. That just kind of sucks. And we shouldn't just rely on that information only existing for large metro areas, because that's not fair. It's not fair to all of the rest of the people who live in other places. It's not fair to future generations of queer folks. It's not fair to anybody. So we need to try and I say this as someone who is barely a part of the community where I live, but that is something we need to work on more. We need to work on collecting that information, archiving that information somewhere safe. We need to work on that so that we don't have these massive losses of information that the federal government right now is trying to do, and that did happen during Nazi Germany. We need to work on that. We need to work on, I don't know how. I'm sorry that this is me just saying, hey, this is something we need to do, and I don't have a solution for how to do it, and I don't have a solution for who should be doing it other than not the government. I mean, I do think we need to work towards that in a government sense as well, though, because, like, why is that not on the census? Would I want it to have been on the census prior to now? No, because I wouldn't trust the current administration. But once this administration is gone, and hopefully, my hope is that we, like, fix things and make it so that nothing like this can ever happen again. Like, we need to make it so that we don't ever have an administration that will just be so openly and blatantly corrupt, spend so much time persecuting their political opponents. Like, this is not what we're supposed to be doing in this country. Supposedly, we live in the best country in the world, but I mean, right now, it does not feel like that in any sense of the imagination. It is hard to believe that there are people out there who think that. I haven't thought that for a long time, but, like, anyone who is saying that now feels detached from reality to me. But anyway, bringing this back to Pride Month and queerness and all of that, it is, like, I am lucky enough to live in a city where the city cares about that kind of stuff, and so there are, like, resources out there on my city's website. There are things out there like, these are businesses that are queer friendly. These are events that are queer friendly that occur in the city. Things like that. I am lucky enough to live somewhere where that is possible, but, like, we need to find ways to be, as a community, as a queer community, we need to find ways to be more, like, open to having people join our communities, be more accepting of, like, new folks, because I feel like that's part of my problem of trying to join these communities. I just never feel like I belong, and I don't think that's necessarily anyone doing anything negative, but I do think there are, like, issues of people generally wanting to talk to people they already know, and not necessarily, like, being open to talking to new people who are showing up and being around and stuff. Maybe that's just a Midwest thing, but that is something I have experienced quite a bit when I have tried to be involved. So, I also think we need to be better record keepers of our own, like, who is a part of our own communities. And again, that is going to be easier if we are more open in our communities, if we are more open to, like, new queer people showing up to things and stuff like that. So, I think that's something we all need to work on. Again, maybe this is just a Midwest in the United States kind of thing, where it's just people around me who never seem to want to, like, be open and welcoming for new people. And again, I don't think it's intentional. I think it's just a thing that happens because people gravitate towards people they already know when they're at, like, an event or whatever. So, we'll see. I did find some information about the 5K that occurs during my city's Pride celebration in August. We're gonna see if I can swing registering now during Pride Month, because they have a discount if you register during Pride Month. So, but it's like a $40 registration fee or something. I would also then have to, like, train. I don't think I'd have to train a lot. I don't think 3.1 miles is very, very far for me. But I walk a good amount on a nearly daily basis right now, so I don't think it would be that hard. And it's like a 2-hour time cap or something, and I think I could do that in 2 hours. I don't think that would be impossible. So, we'll have to see. Since it happens in August, it'll probably be pretty warm, though, so it's a whole thing. I'll have to think about it a little more, but we'll have to see. Like, I really have to see what my budget looks like at the end of the month, because right now it is not great. But it'll probably be doable. I just gotta be a little more frugal at the grocery store in the next couple of weeks. Yeah. Anyway. I did not have the best of days, and I'm trying to be, like, upbeat and happy, and it's very hard. Oh, what can you say? Anyway, I think the rain has stopped, so I'm gonna go try and take a quick walk and then edit this and get it up. So I do definitely like I'm this kind of felt like a very lecture-y kind of recording and kind of like a downer of a recording, but I do think it's important and I think it's important to address these kinds of things, especially since like I haven't tried to research this stuff that much until now, and it's just a bummer to be like, we live in the internet age. We live in an age where most information is pretty readily available to us. And this is something that's not. And part of that goes all the way back to Nazi Germany when they did, like, destroy huge chunks of information that existed out there on queer communities and queer people and queer research and all that kind of stuff. Just like so much information was destroyed during that time. And imagine where we could be right now if that hadn't happened. So I do think it's important that we are like diligent about keeping records about our own communities and about our own identities and that sort of stuff right now, especially since we are living through times that consistently feel closer and closer to how the world was back then. So, anyway, sorry for the kind of lecture-y, downer kind of recording, but it's important. We need to be diligent about that kind of stuff. So, yeah. Hopefully, these recordings will add to that at least just a little bit, even if it's not very much. Even if none of this matters, really. Hopefully, I am adding to knowledge that exists out there about queer folks. And with that, I'm going to stop and try and go for a walk. And hopefully not get rained on. Not that I mind the rain. I won't mind it that much, but, you know. Didn't want to do a recording after getting rained on, so... Anyway, thanks for listening. Apologies again that this is kind of a downer. But I will try and chat at you again soon. Bye!